Hey,
Wow.
afternoon, everyone. This is the next meeting of our public safety financing team. Maybe we have somebody else joining us. First thing on the agenda, because this is technically a meeting of the Board of County Commissioners, is public comment. Anybody here for public comment? We see anybody online? If you're on Zoom, push your raise hand button.
No hands raised.
Okay, I am gonna close public comment. Thank you all for being here. Should we do introductions? I think we know each other at this point. I just want to share, Aaron with EMS can't be here. He is actually on his way down to Denver with a patient, is what I understand. EMS has 3 calls right now. So that means that all of our teams are out, Gilpin County is out, and either Summit or Evergreen will be next if another call happens.
Wow, on a Monday.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there's a third Clear Creek ambulance that's operational right now?
No, we're
said
using
two
Gilpin right
thirds.
now.
Gilpin, and they've already picked up a person.
2 Clear Creek and 1 Gilpin are transporting patients right now.
Jeez.
So next out, if we get another call, is Summit or Evergreen Fire. So anyway, wanted to apologize on Aaron's behalf, but I just got the call 10 minutes ago. We have here Bill Ray. He's on screen. The agenda has 3 things. We're going to review survey results. We're going to talk about the draft ballot language. We're going to discuss the distribution of mills. I don't know that we'll need all 2 hours, but with that said, Bill, I'll hand it to you. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Commissioner. Thanks for letting me zoom in today. I'm going to share my screen and bring up these results. And that's not the screen I wanted to share. Sorry. Great. Hopefully everyone can see this.
Yep.
So after kind of conversations around looking at a mill levy to support the public safety services, including the Fire Authority and EMS, we wanted to do a quick survey amongst voters in Clear Creek County, in the Clear Creek County portion, to see what their support would be of this mill levy proposal. So real quick, I just want to say at the beginning of the survey, we'll look at some of the demographics of the survey respondents. At the very beginning of the call center reaching out to registered voters in Clear Creek County, they had accidentally called some potential respondents up in the Evergreen area outside of the boundaries that we were looking at. We quickly caught that mistake. And just so everyone knows, none of those results are in this data set. We expunged those results from the data set.
Yeah, Bill,
Yes.
I'm in the Evergreen side, and my husband actually got one of the written surveys, which he filled out.
Right. But it's not in this data set. But I appreciate that I believe you alerted, I caught it myself in a overnight set of the data. I said, wait, we shouldn't have that response in here. And we caught it and it's corrected. And I can verify none of those results are in the raw data. But thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate that.
No, I thought you said it was just the phone calls that were missed.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. It could have been a text, it could have been a written, it could have been a phone call, but they are not in this data set. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Bill,
No
were
worries.
you, since I think this question is also relevant, were you able to separate in 80452 unincorporated versus incorporated?
We did,
Okay.
but in this data set, we did not separate out those unincorporated from other unincorporated. We put all the unincorporateds together.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep. So here's some observations I want to share for you to think about as I go through this data. And please ask questions all along the way. So here's just some of the things I saw. Respondents were less positive when we asked them about the direction of the county, with over 42% noting things are going in the wrong track. I want to say don't read a lot into that's an an absolute score on the county itself. I'm seeing right wrong track numbers very similar to that in mountain communities where I'm doing surveys for those communities. That often also captures national, state, just kind of what's going on in the world at that time. But it is also an important kind of icebreaker question that we use in surveys. So we still ask it. We really do want to get a sense of how people are feeling. Um, Traffic and congestion jumped up as a top issue in this survey, but remember, this survey was in the field close or overlapping with the July 4th holiday, and there were those two major incidents along I-70 and probably other issues. So um, remember that kind of wants, when we do a survey like this, we are really capturing how people feel and think at this moment in time. So it does really kind of capture in exactly what's going on at that time. The Emergency Services Improvement District mill levy question starts low, 37.2% yes. This, and just so you know, we asked it fairly close to the way it could appear on the ballot. So we really wanted to be close in the way the ballot language read in the poll, because that's what people are going to see when they get their ballots in the mail. The numbers similar to how the mill levy questions, not how they were asked, but how people responded to a mill levy proposal in our other two surveys. So I wasn't very surprised by this initial reaction, because we saw it in two previous surveys that folks aren't crazy about a mill levy increase, a property tax increase. It struggled with unincorporated voters, but there was some slight movement in the positive direction by the end of the survey. Messaging that combines the importance of response times, high level of service, that cardiac save rate, along with it's been 40 years since the last mill levy, may be the most impactful combination of messaging, especially among 65 and older residents in the county, which will that group will dominate the likely voter turnout for this election. Respondents are very concerned about EMS and fire possibly having to reduce their service levels and increase response times. However, that gets balanced out with overall concerns around cost of living and taxes. So folks are, we're not sure yet where people are going to come out in that kind of push-pull between reducing services and I don't want my taxes to go up. So that's a concern we have to keep in mind. Okay, so I really want to just go through some of the survey methodologies so you know how we did this survey. So we were able to get 200 responses in this survey. 38.5% were live telephone interviews. Another 61.5% were text invites where someone took the survey and text. So we know on a text survey, basically, if it matches someone's voter profile in the voter database. So we're fairly certain and confident that that is the person we were trying to reach who answered that. The interviews were conducted from July 9th to the 16th, so it was just kind of after the one incident in July 4th, and then I think that's right around that truck fire on Floyd Hill. So our we have a 6.8 statistical rating. That means plus or minus 6.8% on these answers. It's a statistical measure because we did do a demographically representative sample of our respondents, but we have a 95% confidence that these responses are solid, represent the views and the feelings of the respondents to the survey.
Can you explain what that plus minus 6.8% means?
Yeah, that's a margin of error. That means statistically, Commissioner, any response in this survey could change by plus or minus 6.8%. So it's just a statistical measure that says any number you see in this survey has some flexibility based on kind of statistical weighting and statistical measurements. If we had more responses, that number would go down lower. But since we have a pretty small pool of folks to get responses, our response rate was only around 200. It still means these numbers, I think, are very intuitive and instructive, but they shouldn't be looked at as absolutes, if that helps.
Bill, how many people did you contact? Out of
Well,
which you got 200 responses?
Yep, our database was about 4,000 people. That's about the active registered voter base in the emergency services area, the authority area. And we probably pinged everyone at least once. Yeah. And some people just aren't ever going to reply to a survey. I think in the end, some folks who took the survey may have gotten communicated to at least 3 times to take the survey. At some points, we just stop bothering people because we don't want to bother people. So it's a process. Here's a quick look at, and I do want to get into the results, but I do want to show you the balance of responses. And we tried to get hit important demographic targets on our survey. So you can see here on the age range of our respondents, 23.3% were 18 to 44-year-olds. Underneath this 2025 LV stands for likely voters. And that shows that about 22.8% of likely voters in 2025 will be 18 to 44. So we're pretty close on that demographic. Very close on 45 to 64. Also very close on 65 and older, and a small group just preferred not to answer and say what their age range was. I think importantly, here's is on the lower left-hand side is how it broke down by community. And you can see here that our unincorporated county responses were about 38.3% of the survey. So we had a little higher response rate out of Georgetown, a little higher response rate in Idaho Springs. Silver Plume, Empire was pretty close. And so, and the county was a little bit below those in unincorporated county. So when we asked folks the top issue, that's always kind of our first icebreaker in a survey is what's the top issue impacting the county or where you live in the county. You can see here other was the biggest response, and I'm putting together a report to you all about other, but a lot of the folks in other said all of the above. And stuff like that. But there's also some pretty important comments in there. Some folks did take that as an opportunity in there. So I'm going to get over, I got all this raw data on Friday and I worked on it over the weekend. So I'm still working on it for you all. So there will still be some more information flow your way. You can see traffic congestion jumped up to the number 2 issue here. really the number one issue, because the others were a lot of different scattered things. Housing was number two. Taxes. Remember, in our previous survey, taxes was the number one issue. So that went down. Wildfire risk. You can see those. I want to talk about these charts below this on each page. This is what we call a heat map, and it tells us for each of these questions how these different demographics broke out. So the darker the color, the more people in that demographic group responded. So you can see here for males, 30.31% of males gave an other, but 22.76% of males who responded to this survey said traffic and congestion. So that's how we read the heat map, and that's very helpful to us, especially as we go through the survey results, to see how different demographic groups reacted to these different questions. Right, wrong track. Already discussed this, but you can see just over 42% said the county's heading in the wrong direction. You can see here in the heat map who felt wrong direction. Well, the darkest color, but probably the fewest responses were people in Silver Plume, right? Because remember, they're about 5% of the responses. That's just a handful of folks. But unincorporated respondents, 56% of those felt it was going in the wrong direction. Younger, 18 to 44-year-olds feel a little more positive, where your older residents were a little more, in the wrong direction camp. Pretty typical. Here's the ballot question. So as you can see here on the right in the small print, unfortunately on people's ballots, that'll be all caps. So even harder to read. But you can see there the ballot question we asked. 37.2% said yes, 53.9% said no. What really I want, more than the overall numbers, what I always want to highlight is this light blue at 11% to the the purple at 32%. That was the definitely yes to definitely no. That is like the folks who pretty much already have their minds made up. They get their ballot and they already know, I'm a yes, I'm a no. And I don't like to see those. I like to see the definitely yes number higher than the definitely no. And definitely, it's not great to see, that a 3-to-1 difference in that number. So that's a bit concerning to me. You can see here in the heat map who's definitely no. Male, 35.5%. Older voters here in the green. But then going all the way over to the right-hand side, you can see the folks in the unincorporated areas, 46.22% of them were definitely no. So that's something concerning, something to take into account as you decide how to move forward.
Bill, just to make sure everybody's hearing that with due emphasis, those are the people whose this ballot would appear on.
Yes, sorry.
As we're going through this, let's pay special attention to that unincorporated response.
Correct. I just bring this up. I want you to see how we asked about a mill levy in the previous two surveys, the public safety survey that was recently done and the fire survey that was done in late 2024. Asked a little different in each one, but we got a similar kind of reaction to property tax. So you can see here in 2025, we asked it as an option to the sales tax. And folks said, pretty similar numbers, actually, a little worse. No thanks to the mill levy. And then for the fire survey, It was asked as a set of options for helping fund the authority, and it ranked the lowest on a scale of 1 to 5 amongst the respondents. So I guess I'm just bringing that up to say, we kind of the starting point in this survey is very similar to the previous surveys.
And I'm sorry, Bill, this is where it gets really hard because the highest, remember, I think I'm remembering right, that the most popular option was a combination, right? And the way to execute a combination is through successive ballot measures where you ask one question at a time.
Correct. Yeah, that's right, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Okay, so we went through a series of questions to kind of show the benefits of this proposal to see how people reacted to them. So I'm going to show you those. So real quick, the dark blue, very important, is what I'm keying in on, because anytime that's around or over 50%, you have a really good message for your community. And as I was going through this, we have great messaging. We just have a resistance to taxes. So we have to really find a way to use this messaging. And it's not messages, not made up messaging lines. This is real stuff. We have to find a way to get this information in front of more and more members of the community, because people respond to it when they see it. So you were asked, and these questions were randomized, so there's no bias of seeing the same question every time. The survey randomized these. The proposal will allow Clear Creek Fire Authority to address the loss of volunteer staffing by recruiting and retaining professional firefighters, which supports proper staffing and wildfire mitigation. Is this very important, somewhat important to potentially supporting this ballot proposal? And you can see here 48.6%. But here's what I kind of want to highlight. 2 columns. The green. Look, 18 to 44-year-olds. That message, they support you. That gets this across the finish line. Unfortunately, 18 to 44-year-olds are only 20% of your voters. You have to look at the 65 and olders. It's pretty important though. 41%, 31%, somewhat important. But then you go over to the right-hand side and you can see it's somewhat important to your unincorporated county voters, but it's a little softer among those voters. So that's how I read this data. That's what this data tells me. Maintaining prompt response times for both the EMS and the fire authority, and having proper staffing and equipment. So 48%, pretty similar, but look, it got a little stronger among 65 and older at 46%, very important. Look, your unincorporated voters, 41% very important. So that message, a little stronger with the key target audience. Actually, quite a bit stronger, I would say. 40 years since the last mill levy increase for the fire authority. Not bad. 65 and older, 46%. Unincorporated, 36%. Very important. So that's a pretty strong message. I think it's a secondary message. It definitely is important, but that service level staffing message is much stronger. Relying on Gilpin County EMS. So that dipped down a little bit, even though what Commissioner said at the beginning of our meeting about all 3 of our EMS ambulances are out, 42.6%. You can see that's oddly, to me, much more important among younger voters, 18 to 44. I would think older voters would be like, I want that ambulance when I call for it. And you can see an unincorporated 44.7%, very important. So a decent message. Maintaining that high level of service and linking that to the cardiac save rate of our combined service providers. Very important among our younger voters, but still pretty important among 65 and older. And look, unincorporated almost hit 50% with unincorporated as a message. That's a really important message to get out there. We also asked 2 questions around concerns with this proposal. And one is just a pocketbook question. Got to ask the pocketbook question. With price of everything, housing, groceries, gas, it's not the right time to increase taxes. And not surprisingly, that very concerning, well up over almost 60%. You can see that's was very concerning among unincorporated voters, older voters, especially 45 to 64-year-olds at 70%. Look, we're all feeling the pocketbook pinch right now, but that is definitely being felt by your county's residents and voters. Concerns around response time. So we did link, without additional funding, there could be impacts to response times to services. And that is a counterbalance to the tax pocketbook issue. I'm sorry, was there a question?
No.
Nope, sorry. Okay. You can see here, pretty well responded to across age groups and unincorporated, 61%. Very concerning. So once again, super important message. It resonates with your unincorporated residents. Okay, so to kind of wrap up the survey, we asked kind of the question after hearing the ballot question and all of this information, would you be more or less likely to support this proposal in a future election? So basically, you heard all this. Can we change your mind? And we can. On the left-hand side, you can see that initial question, 37% yes to 54 basically percent no. And it changed. 50.6% said yes to 40% no. And look at that light blue and purple numbers. They're almost tied, and statistically, that's a tie. They might as well be the same number there. So there is an opportunity to move the needle here. You can move folks to yes. It's going to take great messaging. It's going to take work. It's going to probably take a real focused campaign, but there is ways to move folks to yes. So then I stacked up the heat map and started to look through it. Here on the right-hand side, the county voters did have a small shift. We need a bigger shift to really feel like this has, real potential for passage. But there was a shift toward support in the county voters. I'd say we just got to work harder. We got to educate them. We need community members probably to come out and tell their neighbors, like, we need this. We need to support this. This is important. There was among 45 to 64-year-olds and 65 and olders, there was a movement toward yes, much more toward probably yes. Remember, they are 77% of the likely voters in 2025. So those are the folks. I mean, it's great that younger voters are sold, right? The 18 to 44-year-olds, you probably have their support. Unfortunately, there's not enough of them to get this across the finish line. And if you would think to wait till 2026 to do this, there's not enough of them there. They're only going to be about 30% of voters in 2026, just because your community is older voters. So you can move the needle. You can definitely move the needle among younger voters, but you definitely need to work to continue to move the needle among older voters and unincorporated voters. So one last thing, we did ask an open-ended question at the end of this survey just asking people to share any more feedback they have on this, emergency services within the county. I'm still reading through those. I'm going to put together a report, but there could be some very informative, informational pieces of kind of reaction from the public there that I want to go through that and get that to you all. So this survey results are going to keep evolving a bit, and hopefully we'll learn a little more that can help us kind of crystallize our messaging and how we present this to the public. So I'm going to take a breath and pause there. I'm sure there's questions, and looking forward to helping answer those.
Questions?
I wonder,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I wonder if the property assessments had something to do with that.
Did you hear that question?
Yes, well, we definitely saw it in the previous survey that I presented to you all, because those assessments, I think, came out while that previous public safety survey was in the field. And that spiked that concern around tax in that survey. And I'm sure that memories lingered into this survey. So look, we're just probably not surprised that there's tax sensitivity and sensitivity toward property tax increases. So it's to be expected, but and it's a challenge. It's a challenge we have to recognize, and we have to get out and educate community members that there's a trade-off, that there's an impact to our emergency services, and that we need to find a funding solution to address that.
Bill,
Yes.
reading the draft ballot language, I think some people were concerned with that last paragraph and not reading it properly, but they could have gotten from the language, let's see. Shall the district be entitled to collect, retain, and spend the full revenue from that tax increase without statutory or constitutional limitation or condition? That almost sounds like, despite everything we said about this being for emergency services, that suddenly we can go off the rails. And I'm wondering if it said something like tax increase for emergency services without statutory or constitutional limitation or condition. I'm wondering if that would help. And then my second point, is there a way to get into a draft ballot language, something to the effect of, for reference, 6.89 mils on a $500,000 home would be X per year?
So I'm going to phone a friend and have Peter jump in. But we are very restricted in what has to be in a ballot question. And I will say that I have never seen nor worked with a public sector attorney who has ever allowed an estimate around how much it would cost to the median or average home in a ballot question. Never seen it, never seen it done,
Interesting.
been asked it, but that is up to us on the communication side to try and communicate that to the public. And as far as all the legalese at the bottom, we actually simplified it. There was probably more complexity that had to go in there, and that is required. But maybe Peter, do you want to share your thoughts on that?
So just speaking to Rebecca's question, while you're correct, Bill, that we can't, and I've never seen specifics as to medians and every median cost to family, everything like that. What I can say, if I understood the question correctly, is that you can put language in that says something like, I don't know, 10 mils equivalent to, 10 cents on every dollar spent. Something like that. You can put language like that in there so that people conceptualize what that $2 million is, for example. Bill, do you agree with that?
I've never seen that really done, Peter, but I have a rule, but you all don't have to follow it. But I don't want voters to do math. And I don't necessarily want voters to do math when they're filling out their ballot. So we do want to not, and when you complicate things, people tend to vote no. So we do want to be as simple as we can. And if we were to do a community outreach engagement, or if there was a campaign, that effort can absolutely try and do the math for people. Like do a chart of for every 100,000, show, how much the tax could be. And then in the middle, have the median home value and its tax computed so that folks, I did a water district project years ago where we did a web page where someone could put in the value, the assessed value of their home, and it would tell them how much the tax would be.
Okay, so how about my first suggestion in that last paragraph, adding and spend the full revenue from that tax increase for emergency services without statutory or constitutional limitation or condition.
So we cannot change that. We can put that language somewhere, but we cannot put it in that last paragraph. And just so you know, the paragraph that you have in front of you is going to be adjusted anyway based on the new 5.25% caps. So I need to add some specific Tabor language as well as some other language that has to do with another cap that applied that we need to waive and the 5.25%. So it won't look exactly like that, but we could work your specific edit, which is just a little added information. We could find a way to add that somewhere in the ballot. But I defer to Bill on the benefit, but from a legal standpoint, you can add it.
Okay,
And
I'm just saying that, there's so many conspiracy theories and someone could take that language right there. Shall the district be entitled to collect, retain, and spend the full revenue from that tax increase without statutory or constitutional limitation? Sounds like we're just opening the door to,
No.
tax and spend frivolously.
And
yeah,
that's the debrucing, correct?
Yeah, it is debrucing language. You will have seen that in prior resolutions or prior ballot measures, that exact language. However, in light of the new 5.25% cap, I intend to modify the language so that it just doesn't go on forever. I have been reaching out to see if anybody else has suggested language. Otherwise, I'm going to come up with my own. But I understand what you're saying, but that is the only way to allow the use of the funds in excess of the Tabor requirements. Or
So
Tabor limits.
Peter, just to make sure that I'm understanding that correctly, we're not required to have that on any ballot measure, right? We could choose not to ask that question at
Right.
all and just choose to have these new revenues be subject to that cap.
Yes.
Correct.
If we do that, do we impact the status of the revenues that we have debruced within the ESGID?
I don't think so.
Because the 4.569 is debruced.
Right. So this is a modification of the overall tax. And my view is that this would affect the prior ballot measures and resolutions related to the tax that ESGID currently collects, because it is the latest, greatest version of a ballot measure that is reviewed. It takes what was previously out there and then adds additional onto it. And I believe that subjects the entire tax to that condition.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bill, I'm curious, do you have thoughts on the value of eliminating that debrucing language?
Well, it clearly has budgetary value to you all, right? I will say that I think voters have been conditioned to see that legalese, Tabor, gobbledygook at the bottom of the ballot language, and some folks now just read over it. I find that generally a lot of voters don't read past the bullet points. There's unfortunately a large group of voters that don't read past shall taxes be increased, right? I mean, that's the most important line. Um, I would say that I would think that it's worth debrucing and taking the risk because I think there's a lot of voters conditioned to seeing that. They've seen it for the school district. They've seen it for the other local governments or other questions. They probably saw it in our roads fund sales tax a few years back.
Thank you. Other questions? Georgia?
In the draft language, you talk about a total of 11.459 mils. How does that compare to other counties' property taxes?
That is exactly the rate charged by Evergreen Fire Rescue.
Who?
Evergreen Fire Rescue.
Evergreen. Okay,
To answer the question you asked.
I think so, because I was just trying to figure out where that number came from, and I'm assuming that when this is messaged, we're going to talk about that, or is that part of a marketing so people know where that number came from, or because it's a big increase, right? 6.89 mils, but there's a reason that that increase is being asked, so we get to that number. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, colleagues, correct me if I'm wrong. There was reticence to going on the ballot for a mill rate higher than what Evergreen Fire Rescue pays.
Right.
So we kind of viewed it as an upper limit when we were discussing it.
Right.
Obviously, and we can get into these numbers, but and it was stated before, this increase doesn't meet need for anybody, right? This is just a step.
And I mean, the fact that they haven't increased it for 40 years,
Oh, it's amazing.
I mean, that it kind of
It's
shows the
embarrassing.
urgency of it.
It's
And
embarrassing. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I just wondered about the number. Thank you.
Mhm.
Other questions?
George, I just had a comment that we had a constituent that went to our meeting up at St. Mary's and she kind of had a takeaway that she didn't want to vote for any taxes. No sales tax, no mill levies, anything. She was upset and we kind of changed the way we were going out and talking to the public. And then we've had Jeremy speaking at some of them. And after that same person went to the one that was here and completely changed their mind. In fact, was like, I'm ready to vote today because they realize that right now in the public, it's services for tourists, for visitors. You know, we're having to up their fees so that we can pay for these other people. But we explained it's not just that. It's a lot of residents here need more services. And that's what convinced her to. She's an aging population. So I think that's another thing in messaging that we need to be conscious of what we're saying when we're out.
Thank you. The question that's on my mind, Bill, obviously, so let me take a step back. What I have heard as common advice is that you can't be very confident unless you're seeing before you ask the persuasion question numbers between 55 and 60% in support. So I'm just sort of asking this question with the likelihood that we put this on the ballot and it does not pass if we put this on the ballot. That feels to me to be the likely outcome if we choose to put this on the ballot. Is there a silver lining to losing a ballot measure? And does that change if the measure loses by a lot?
That's a really great question. So I'm going to step back to one of the things you said. Yes, there is a conventional wisdom that if you do a poll and if your ballot question isn't somewhere around 57, 58%, it's going to be hard to pass it, especially if there's an opposition campaign. So going from that springboard to you have to balance that with your community needs this, right? So that's the struggle that you all have, is that, but we need to do this to keep our community safe, to provide excellent emergency services. So the difference is, like, how are we going to work to educate the community? Part of educating the community might have to be asking the question. Hopefully it'll pass. But if it fails, continuing that conversation with the community into a future ballot cycle. So sometimes there is situations, and I can go back through many other districts that have done this, where sometimes you have to lose to win. It's not an exact corollary, but I helped a school district in Park County, so very conservative, much older. They lost 4 times before we finally won. And in the end, the district won because it took that many times to make their case to the public, but then they got what they needed. And now they have schools that are high functioning and safe and doing what they need to do. So sometimes asking the question, not winning, but using that as a springboard for further engagement and community education can be part of a successful effort. But you just have to recognize this is roll up the sleeves. And I know you all have been doing it. Roll up the sleeves, hard work. You got to do it and not like let off the gas pedal, because that's what it's going to take to educate the community. Like what was just brought up about the person in St. Mary's. Right? We unfortunately don't have the resources to talk to everybody individually. If we could, we probably could change these numbers. So we have to look at it as a sustained effort of great engagement and communications.
My feeling is we owe a duty to our community, and we've owed a duty for a long time. We should have done this, 10, 20 years ago. And we can't just throw up our hands and say, oh, well, they don't support it. And if we do lose it, I agree that it's still educating our community. And if they start complaining, well, it, took, so long for emergency services to get to my home, we're like, I know, we really needed that extra mill levy. Maybe next time, you could support it or something.
Other opinions around the room? How are people reacting to this?
Just a comment, it doesn't look like it's gonna have a shot in unincorporated. So what does this mean for the municipalities? Is it gonna, and are we gonna end up putting it on the ballot and basically funding the fire protection for those folks that don't wanna increase their mill levy?
That's a good point. Other thoughts? I don't hear Bill saying, don't do this, this is a mistake. I actually hear him saying, you gotta try, but
I
other,
guess my statement to this is we haven't been able to really campaign any of this. We haven't had an answer of what we're gonna put on ballot. So as much as I talk to public groups and I give them scenarios, which is great, I haven't been able to give them a concrete, this is what we're gonna ask you for.
Right.
I can play the what if game, which I've done for the last 6 months talking to HOAs. But we need to settle on what we're gonna actually ask for. So when I talk now in September 1st, when I can actually talk in my current role to the public before I have to stop, I can have a straightforward conversation with people of what it costs them, what they get for their money, and why we need it. And I think we can continue to do that, but we've been kind of in a weird position because it's like, well, it might be sales tax. It might be a mill increase. It might cost this, we don't really know. Now if we have direction and we know what it's gonna cost them, we can have an honest conversation with individual customers. What that impact is for the year, by the month, and what they're getting for that money and why it's necessary. So I think we surveyed, which is great, but we haven't really been able to put out a definitive, this is what we're asking for today, if you really get down to it.
Right.
I've given some theoretical stuff to like Mill Creek Park and some other places. And they're very supportive on the theoreticals, but it's like, hey, we don't know what we're doing yet. But so theoretically, we could do this or this. What do you think? We've been able to do some of that to lay some initial groundwork and take questions. This is gonna take all of us to actively campaign on why we feel, us and the amounts we feel this is important. Why we feel this is critical to the community. And yeah, we talk about the 65 and older community, we've got good support there. The survey is probably skewed to a certain degree. Because how many answered versus didn't answer versus wanted to participate. Or this is our opportunity to actually have one-on-one conversations with that community, which is what we do all the time anyways. And start kind of moving the needle a little bit.
So I hear that from you as a, yes, let's move forward.
Well,
and-
we either move forward with it or we all collectively agree that we're gonna shut the fire department down. And we go, cool, let's figure out what that is, and that's really where I'm at. We need to continue moving forward as a group, fail or not, or admit we're defeated and we need to just give up. So I think nobody wants to give up, so let's keep moving forward and putting 100% effort into this. And if we fail, we fail, but at least we say we tried before we failed.
Thank you. And just an important caveat for everybody, the board, our board isn't going to make a decision until late August. But like, we really do want to hear from you all here today. Kelly, let me go to you and then we can go to the municipalities. Do you have anything to add to what Jeremy said? Do you have what are your thoughts?
Well, I agree totally with him. And what I add to it, throw people under the bus, we've been asking for money for what, 6 years now? So, and being denied that ballot question has potentially lost us $3 million. Will we need to be in this situation today? Had we gotten that ballot issued back in 21? And now we're looking at if this fails next year, what's plan B? Because if it fails the second time, we go back to volunteer departments under direction of the municipalities with no money. So services are, who knows how bad they are, because we don't have volunteers that live in the county. How are we going to pay volunteers to come up here and do a volunteer shift? That will be the question. Who's going to pay the insurance and the fuel cost? And that money goes away, and we have 2 chances to make this work. We have to make it work this time. The next time, failure is not going to be good.
Just speaking as one member of your board, in a scenario that you're talking about, I would definitely be talking about options in between going all volunteer and having the staffing levels we have today. But that's not a conversation for today.
Those numbers that in the chart I have, I don't have it with me for some reason, but it's a no change, which is we stay like we are, we don't get an increase. That money in 2027, end of 27, there will be enough money to run a volunteer department for a year to 2 years. It's at the most.
And fire department has how many professional firefighters outside of you two?
12.
12. Okay.
Those would have to, I would envision those would go away and you would have to have a paid fire chief to make everything work. Because that's what I morphed into back in 2001. Went from a volunteer fire chief to a paid fire chief to manage the 7 volunteer departments.
Okay. Thank
Go
you.
back 35 years, 30 years.
Should we go to the municipalities? And I saw you look like maybe you wanted to start.
No, I was just brushing my hair on my face.
Oh. What is your take on this?
I take on this.
Yeah, are you encouraging us to move forward? Are you?
Yes, because I think that, as been said by Rebecca, by Jeremy, and by Kelly, we can't not do it. Irrespective of, I know that the numbers look bad. It looks like, however, a lot of people moved to yes. Even though on that last chart, the county voters had a small shift, the unincorporated county voters had a small shift. To me, this is really about education, and Jody mentioned this too, helping people understand what is happening, what's the cost of the fence. The cost of this is way more than a mill levy increase. It's safety, it's people possibly dying, it's not providing services that we all consider to be very basic. So to me, it's education and messaging. And yes, I would absolutely think you have to do it. And if it fails, it fails, but at least people can say, well, you know, we ran up the flagpole, nobody saluted, what are you gonna do? But now we're gonna do it again. And I think that's what, this isn't gonna go away. So I think it's another thing people have to understand is this isn't a one and done vote. This is a one of however many, because it has to happen. I don't know how we do it without it.
Thank you. Moving across the room, Jeanette, any comments?
We move forward. Yeah, it's a little bit depressing to look at the numbers. It's, yeah, the education piece, like you said, now if we're settled on what we're doing, then we have to get it hard. You know, what do we do to get the word out? That probably needs to be our best focus. How do we all figure out how to get the message across and encourage other people to get the message across? Yeah, we have time to work on that, but yes, absolutely. My one thought was, if the mill levy doesn't pass this time, does it make sense to stay with the mill levy and keep working on that? Or do we switch and go to the sales tax next and try to do that instead? I have no opinion. I'm just curious, would we switch it up or would we stay with one and keep? It probably makes sense to stay with one because we've done the education and we
And
want
we're
to
40 years
continue
behind.
on.
We're 40 years
Yeah.
behind. That's just embarrassing.
Yeah.
It's, you know,
You know what I mean? Yeah.
but yeah, whatever pathway is the best one. Yeah, it might be a long haul, but we can take the steps.
Thank you.
It's a little daunting.
Chuck?
I am really desperate for a win here. And I would suggest that the citizens in Idaho Springs, whether it comes through a sales tax or mill increase, would just really like to see adequate funding, particularly for fire. You know, I don't care what entrance I take to get on I-70. I am staring at this vast expanse, of dead brown trees, you know, and it's pretty sad. It doesn't matter what one you take.
That's right.
And I have people ask me all the time, what are we gonna do about that? And they'll point over here or at Montaigne Park or wherever. And I don't have good answers. You know, there's like millions and millions of dollars worth of fire mitigation that, you know, and I know what's gonna happen because it's just gonna grow exponentially. You know, I'm making a number up here, but you know, we're gonna go from 10,000 trees in one area to 100,000 trees in one area, you know, just, you know, in a year or two, and it only gets worse. And I really, I want to just emphasize the importance of a win. And I did not get a single person, and you know, there's always somebody that complains, and I don't care if kids got a new slide, somebody would complain. But when we took our contribution to the fire authority from 144 to 309, I did not even hear a single person say, you did what with our money? Because they knew, you know, that we are really vulnerable. So sorry to get a little long-winded, but I just, I just really think whatever it takes to get this done and get this across the finish line, with a check in the win column, that's what we need to do.
I just wanted to say as a public person that was watching the fire authority meetings from the get-go, I thought that's what was starting, was to this point where we're at now, like all of last year and everything. I thought when it started going in the direction of like maybe the county asking for money, I was starting to get upset because I thought this was about the fire authority. And then now we're here, so I think that's what changed was that last meeting is because we had made that decision to go after for the fire authority and the EMS. So we were able to, like Jeremy said, we had a little bit more of a direction for that town hall. Before it was just giving out the stats and, you know, we didn't know if we were going to do the sales tax or, but I don't want to say we can 100% get this across the line, but if we had a good message that we could go out, we have 2 town halls left. I think we're going to have to add, at least we can go out publicly and talk about this. The education, when people realize what it's for, I think they're gonna want it.
My sense, especially after hearing you, is I'm leaning towards moving forward. So let's move on in the agenda unless anybody has any other comments on this question.
Stand up.
Oh,
He was trying.
Bill, do you have any words of wisdom before we set you free? Thank you.
Yes, I do. I was going to raise my hand earlier, but I thought it was good to hear the conversation. And Jeremy, I'm not singling out something you said about the survey results, but I do want to let you, I say this all the time. This survey should not be the tail that wags the dog. It is a tool for us to use kind of to know where our starting point might be and what messaging we could use to impact our most important audiences. But it's just one of the tools in this process. You have to take into account what you're hearing in the community, what you hear from your emergency services agencies, and put all those inputs together in making your decision. And it sounds like the decision is pretty dire and important to keep moving along. So we then use the survey just to say, here's how we can have the best, most focused messaging to talk to our community members. So that's what I want to say is like how we use the survey is to help guide us, but it's not the only data point along this decision-making process.
Thank you. And to that end, I mean, the survey is pretty clear, talking about response times and talking about the high level of service people enjoy today are the most compelling messages. Okay. So let me click over. The next thing was just comments on the draft ballot language. We already have kind of had a number of them. I actually am not prepared to share the ballot language that the Board of County Commissioners sort of directed to move forward with. Is there value in getting that up so that people can look at it and comment on it? It's different than what was in the survey.
This is what Peter said.
Oh, you've got it.
That's what I was talking about.
Yeah, that's what Peter said.
This, and Peter clarified, this is different than the survey. This is what we actually looked at. So do you all have thoughts on this ballot language, how to improve it?
Is there a way to, in the very first paragraph, a comment was made that when you start off, shall taxes be increased? A lot of people stop there. They're just like, nope, don't want to do it. Is there any value to adding, in order to support fire and EMS, shall taxes be increased? Is there any kind of preemptive little strike to make there so people know where this is going? Would that help them read further, or is it a very small percentage of people who just stop at shall taxes be increased?
Peter?
Unfortunately, the way that Am I frozen or are you
No,
frozen?
we can hear you. Can you
Okay,
hear us?
good.
He's
I'm
from.
frozen on my screen.
Your video's frozen.
Okay. Unfortunately, the way that the constitutional language for Tabor reads, you must start the ballot question with that language, exactly as you see it.
Okay. Thank you.
And the point in that paragraph at which we gain flexibility is
Not till the bullet point.
the word tax, right?
Yeah.
That
Correct.
which has been at 4.56 mil since 1988 is not legally required language.
That is correct. That's and the
Peter, maybe-
purpose for adding that was so that you could see, I really wanted the public to be able to know that taxes hadn't been raised since 1988.
Which I think has
Yes.
value.
I have a question. Does the ballot question have to speak to the breakdown of how much is going to the fire district and how much is going to EMS?
So that is, it's not a legal requirement, but it is a construction requirement in terms of how you would construct the ballot language. But you don't need to. But that may beg the question, well, the public may say, well, how much is really going to the fire authority then? So Bill, I can turn that question over to you.
So, you don't have to put much more in there than shall taxes be increased, right? I mean, that's about the the level of requirements. The bullet points are, I think, they're optional. I think they're critical. You have to let folks know what they're voting on and what the money is going to go to. The more specific you are, the more handcuffed you are. So you don't want to put in like 40% to fire and 40, you don't want to do anything like that because what if something changed, right? Then, so the more specific, the more locked in you get on how the money's used. But you definitely, I think you need those bullet points so folks get the value proposition of the tax increase.
Do you see folks get more comfortable as you get more explicit about the uses?
No, I don't, because I've had ones where it was very prescriptive and then people then boomeranged and said, well, who decided that? No one asked my opinion on that. So
Yeah.
I would not get overly prescriptive. I would, we can sharpen up those bullet points based on what we saw in the survey, right? Talking about response times, service levels, proper staffing, proper equipment. Those things responded well, and we want to make sure that those are reflected in the bullet points.
Thank you.
Doesn't that help if it's more descriptive on who's getting what? Doesn't that help mitigate the last paragraph? That there was some question about where money's going and it doesn't seem just like a free, hey, we can spend it however we want.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, the emergency services district can only spend on emergency services, right? So we need to find a way to frame that up for folks that they could, understand that connection, that this can't go into road funding or something else, not related to emergency services. I would just be, I'm not sure if I'm misunderstanding your question, but and I see that you want to kind of counteract all the things that people might say, well, they can just use this for whatever they want.
Right.
But you could put in there something like limited only to, well, Peter, I'm doing you correct me if I'm wrong, but limited only to, and you could list out the services that receive it, the fire authority, the ambulance service, but then that might prevent you in the future from using it for anything related to the sheriffs or 911. I don't want to open a can of worms here.
Or even shifting between those two agencies. So
Just a quick clarification question from Peter. The last paragraph, is that completely statutory? Is there any wiggle room to make taxpayers more comfortable that the money will just be used for emergency services, general improvement district?
So the language that we tend to use to allow what we call for debrucing and defielding, for lack of better terms, is pretty standard. However, I would simply say that with direction from the board and whomever decides to put this forward, well, or it'll be our resolution. I'm fairly sure that I can wordsmith it in a way that it looks less cumbersome than the way it is, and that may offer the clarification that you're looking for. I really have to sit with the language and see how to best do that without creating an issue that somebody would contest the ballot in a future
Sure.
lawsuit.
Right.
I think it can be done. I just need to figure out how to do it.
we might be able to add, sorry, just it like at the end of that paragraph, just a very concise statement, all revenues will be used to fund fire and medical services, just at the end.
Yeah.
Kelly, I saw your hand.
Question for Peter. When we debruced back in 06, I'm curious if that would not allow any new increased funding to pull in under that, or does it depend on how that was worded?
No, so those earlier languages allowing for the debrucing, still apply. This new ballot measure is going to end up trumping, for lack of a better term, the prior resolutions and ballot measures. So we need to have that debrucing language in there again in order to ensure that everything remains debruced. It is possible to do a ballot measure strictly relating to the additional amount and not debrucing it. But from realistic perspective, I think you would be putting yourself at a severe budgetary disadvantage by limiting yourself that way. There is a reason that counties have routinely attempted to debruce. There's a reason that it's on Jefferson County's ballots every year.
It passed.
They'll pass,
Oh.
but they haven't in Jeffco.
Yeah, they finally got debruced. And I can validate that from the experience of the counties that have not been debruced. It is a mess.
Yeah.
I just got a helpful note. Hey, Bill, happy birthday.
Oh,
We set him free.
Thank you.
Okay, Bill, we're gonna set you
Sure?
free. Well,
All
I
right.
mean, you're welcome to hang out. I mean, it's your birthday, but
Actually, my wife just texted me, are you ever going to stop working today? So,
thank you for being here, Bill.
well,
Thank you.
I'm passionate about helping you all. So that's why I'm here. And I will keep working on those survey results and obviously be a resource for you all in this decision-making process.
Yeah.
So good
Bill,
luck.
just one note, we have a town hall tomorrow, and if there are any critical other comments, if you could let us know what they are before tomorrow night, that might be
Yep.
helpful.
I'll get up early tomorrow morning and get back to work.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Okay,
Thanks,
good luck. Thank you.
So thank you, Brian. Nobody wants to have to work on their birthday. So then getting us back to where we were in the conversation. We were talking about this last paragraph and whether to get rid of it. We were talking about debrucing. Oh yeah, we were just talking about, yes, you want to be debruced. I assume that's, I see a lot of nodding in the room. So we're just gonna leave it at that. I'll add an opinion that I have, which is when I look at the way that long introductory sentence reads, which has been at 4.569 mils since 1988. We put it in there because we thought it was a compelling message.
I think.
I know it's compelling to the people in this room. It's among the least persuasive messages to the unincorporated electorate. And there is a cost to adding complexity to ballot measures. And so I just like, the very important numbers are 36% and 17% for somewhat important.
Sorry,
So
what?
36% of unincorporated voters found that 40-year message as compelling. Remember Bill was saying you want it to be around 50 to know it's a great message. I'm toying with the idea of shortening that introductory sentence by not saying which has been at 4.569 mils or mentioning to a total of 11.459. Neither of those are required. And it's just more words, it's more numbers. If we're trying to put something on the ballot that we give people the best chance of getting through, wrapping their heads around, I'm open to the idea of eliminating that.
I do not want to eliminate, saying something like, which has not been raised since 1988. I like that. I mean, I think that kind of says to everyone that there is a need here because everyone knows things have changed since 1988.
I thought so too, and I'm kind of surprised by what the data is saying. But anyway, I want to just sort of, that's not like a hard opinion, but it's an idea I'm toying with. Other thoughts about this ballot language? What's missing? What should be better? I've got one more, but.
I mean, you could say, just say, raise it by 6.89 mils. I mean, explain that it hasn't been raised since 1988, needs to be raised by 6.89 mils to be able to fund what we need to fund.
We still have to do a blue book message, pros and cons.
Yep.
And put that information in there to make sure that we do that very clearly.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. So my other thought is that these bullets, based on the results, I think they really match already really closely to the most compelling messages. But I think we could modify them slightly in light of the survey results. I think we could modify them slightly to talk about what people said they really care about. Sorry.
We look at different word for increasing.
Yeah.
We're not trying to increase, we're trying to survive.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, when I look at.
Like it's about growing and.
To protect Clear Creek Fire Authority's ability to provide fire protection.
Sustain or.
Sustain, that's good.
Sorry.
What are?
The most compelling two messages both have the word maintaining, right? It's maintaining high levels of services and medical outcomes, and it's maintaining prompt response time.
And use maintaining.
Yeah.
Because we're not increasing and we're certainly not, I mean, this is just about survival and coming up to modern times. I think in the messaging, it might be interesting also to compare $1988 to $2015.
Yeah. Releasing the blue book.
That's what I mean, like, here's what you could buy, and now here's what you can buy.
Right.
Because I think that's another way to make it very real to people's pocketbooks, what they're thinking about.
Yeah, fire truck in 1988, there's a fire truck now.
Or just you go to the store for $100, here's what you can buy.
Oh, yeah.
Here's what you can buy now.
Yeah.
Pocketbook issues. I like the interactive website calculator.
Yes, that was a good idea.
thought
And
that
we already have one.
We didn't renew it.
Sorry. I thought about that.
We can-
Marketing campaign.
Yeah.
That would be easy to build, though.
I don't know.
Yeah.
One calculation.
I don't know how to do that, but I can put it on the website once we have it.
Or just even like an example.
Yes.
That doesn't, you don't want to have an example, but.
What's that? On the table, what page?
Yeah, we used to have a webpage that you could like literally see where all your
Balancing out.
taxes went.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
Balancing it. Yeah.
So that was cost savings, we got rid of it.
Last year it was gone.
Yeah.
24.
And I've been telling people about it still, since I've been elected, shoot. I haven't checked it for a year, but
It wasn't there last year. So it was, must have been gone in 23
no.
I was there in 23.
or 24
I was there.
option.
Yeah,
Yeah, we just,
25.
we did not renew it for 25.
and that's just for cost saving or?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Well, I mean, we could even say what I was saying before. It's like for a $500,000 house, the additional, 6.89 mils
Yeah.
would be X amount.
Right.
And then people can subtract if their, house is 250 and they can add if their house is $1 million.
I liked what the library did when they went around and they talked about the services that you got. We still haven't done that. We don't have the list of the services. There's services that, like the blood, the whole blood, there's just different things that we
Right.
didn't know about, the Jeremy's Wood deal. It's, people hear about that and they're like, oh, well, we do get things. It doesn't just all go to the tourists.
Right.
So I think that's important for the unincorporated, for my people. That's what they want to hear.
Well, and that's what I liked about the mill is that, we all want to protect our homes from fire and wildfire. And, sales tax is like, more nebulous, but fire is pretty tangible. Ambulance services.
So what I have is observations on this. What I've written down is possibly add a sentence at the end of the debrucing language. It's just really concise. All revenues will be used to fund this and this.
Okay.
Think about, so that's like a possible,
Okay, thank you.
And I thought
Um,
Peter said I couldn't add anything to it, but.
you said you could like at the end in a different paragraph.
You can't stick it in the middle.
Oh, I see. Okay, so like a new sentence.
I have, think about the 40 years in total mill messaging in the first paragraph. And I have, this feels like a more solid opinion of the group. Rework those bullets to highlight maintaining and response times and good medical outcomes. Any other comments on this ballot language? We can move to sort of talking about the split next. Not hearing it. Okay. So I'm gonna try to avoid burying you in numbers. You've seen this a bunch of times. I'm gonna do a quick screen share. I've got three kind of sets of information to share to kind of prompt this conversation. And there we go. Can you all see that okay? So this is assessed value changes and what their impact has been. 2026, I can't emphasize enough how tentative these numbers are. This is a at least approach. We don't know yet whether the final assessment rate will be 6.25 or 6.15. The educated guess of the people that came up with this is that the state grew more than 5% and it'll be 6.15. And you can see here that I want to highlight sort of what the dollar growth is.
I'm sorry. I thought we were talking about 6.89 or something.
I was talking about the assessment rate, not the mill rate.
Oh, sorry, housing assessment rate. Thank you.
Initial assessment rate. So then I wanted to just point out to all, this is like very initial. Don't take this to your budgeting person. It's I think at one point I was told within 5% in either direction, this could shift. You can see here, I want to point out to you that these numbers are gonna hit the municipalities' requests. Kelly, I think we will set mills late this year and it will show up in their requests next year. right? So this is the amount that your contributions would need to go up if you're maintaining your 9 mil rate.
Their contribution is calculated based on what the final for this year's.
Okay. So you could see, and actually, I think this is the problem of having me do this. This is based on 4.569 mils. So,
This is what we currently have. Right?
yep. Because the municipalities are currently contributing at 9, this is what you're actually gonna. That's not right. Just know that was calculated at 4.569. So your increased contribution could be double that. This is the total new revenue. So fire authority, like the thing I really want to point out, especially with respect to the emergency services district, is that there's only 4% growth. What happened here is that the emergency services district has a lot of natural resources category property, and the assessment rate dropped by a lot. 2% for all of those properties. So I want to get to the next thing. This is just a reminder. We went through this last week too. This is an estimate of countywide public safety need. We've got the long-term, the good service level that we came up with. This is that bare minimum need that was come up with. Medium term, this is move the ball down the field a little bit. There was no capital in that estimate. Obviously, capital would be a deficit spend. Blah, blah, blah. Clear Creek EMS. This number changed a little bit because the CChat numbers, we got bad news about a grant for CChat. We are still currently fully grant funded for CChat. That may exist for another year. It may exist for another few years. Ultimately, it's gonna have to take tax revenue to support that.
It's gonna have to what?
Take tax revenue to support that.
Right, because we're required to provide it.
We are required to provide it. Then you have Clear Creek Sheriff. So this is just kind of a level setting of what we thought the total need was. Kelly, did I see that you had something to say?
Yeah, thanks to a couple guys in Silver Plume, we're being penalized again with the chat requirement. Not to say it shouldn't exist. It works well in Summit County. I don't think it should be under EMS. I think it should be under social services or the sheriff. We shouldn't be penalized for that for fire and ambulance. Just my opinion.
I thought it was out of the sheriff.
It's out of Clear Creek EMS.
Huh.
It's
They caused you.
I know.
it's in my perspective, co-response is an emergency response. But
We don't co-respond. They co-respond with the sheriff, not us, most of the time. And it's a behavioral response, not a medical response. Just to expand.
Yeah.
We talking about CChat?
Yeah.
so then that's just a reminder, our estimate of countywide need. This is the numbers in our proposed ballot measure. What we were talking about, and this is sort of where we left the conversation last month. Get the fire authority, get the county contribution of the fire authority up to 9 mils. See what we can do for Clear Creek EMS at the same time. That's the total new revenues. I did this outstanding remaining need because of course we know that this isn't enough for anybody. If you guys remember, the total mill rate to get to good for Clear Creek Fire alone is 14 mils. And the numbers on the 14 mil property tax were terrible. So this is the breakdown. This is the math that we used to decide that we were going to pull on 11.459. What we're here to talk about now is 6.89 the right number to ask for? What do you all think about the split? We're really, again, I just want to just level set us all, Board of County Commissioners. The ESGID board is not going to make a decision today, but we do want to hear your feedback. And your opinions are the most important to be expressed here today. Go ahead.
EMS has 0 for current?
Because currently there is 0 property taxes going, and that's
Oh,
They're
okay,
funded also.
funded through sales tax.
okay.
Thoughts on this? Should we just go around the room or should we?
So what is the question, George?
The question, I think, is focusing on this column, 6.89, the right number to be asking for? Is 9 mils for fire authority and 2.5 mils almost for EMS, the right split? How do we feel about, what's left? Is it this outstanding need? Those are the questions, right? Specifically, the amount of the ask and the split. And do you guys want to continue to look at this, or should I give you your screens back?
So you said to get to good, it was 14 mils.
14 total mils to get to good.
Okay, and so this was just, did you back into this number of 11.459? Was that kind of backed into or?
We viewed 11.459 as the upper limit.
Okay,
This matches Evergreen's.
right,
No,
exactly.
We have neighbors on their board.
Okay, so we feel like it's a safe number. People know what they see and they understand it. Okay. So in that case, I
Do
would
we
say
have
this,
any insight into whether or not Evergreen Fire Authority is gonna go for more, or
They're gonna
Evergreen?
go for more money.
They are,
Every
this,
conversation I've had with them is they need additional money for mitigation and everything else, so
this Falcon?
I don't know, man. I haven't had a chance to sit down.
Okay, 'cause it would be kind of-
You'd find out. 'Cause
Kind,
it's-
kind of hard if we're tying ours to theirs and then they go up by another couple mils.
They're looking at options right now and how they fund. Their increased operation fees cost because they've got career crews now. And how they fund their mitigation program and all the costs that go with that, so.
Yeah.
They are actively looking for funding. And trying to determine what the best path forward is. They're just finishing up their master plan, which lays that future of the organization out, that's in public comment now. It was in a couple of meetings, so they're in mid-process of what that future is.
I want to emphasize before I get rid of the screen share that as it's currently written, this gives flexibility in that split. So that means if this passes, we renegotiate the IGA, the municipalities say, yeah, we think we should all be at 10. The ESGI board would have some space to at least have the conversation. If 5-10 years down the road, we see that sales tax has grown a lot, which currently is funding EMS, but assessed values haven't. The ESGI board would have the flexibility to do that. Or if we see the converse, right? If we see huge assessed value growth and not much sales tax growth, where we suddenly see sustainability in the fire authority and the EMS is in trouble, things could be moved the other way. Of course, all of those, because of the IGA, would be, the result of a negotiation with all of the municipalities, right? We would have to change the IGA. Right now, I think we've a lot of flexibility between 4.5 and 11, 10. Any of us, we can all just kind of set our rates between 4.5 and 11. But I just wanted to remind you all about that. And then I'm just going to put the screen down so we can look at each other.
so can numbers ever be even? And so instead of 11.459, can you go to 12? Or is that just not palatable to people?
You can. Yeah, you can do whatever you want. Typically,
The first survey, we had a number of 14.67 for fire alone.
that's what it would take to fund good.
But that's right, that was to get us to where we need to be, in essence, right?
Yeah. That would make things.
That would make
solid
everybody
for a
happy.
long time. But that was just fire, that didn't include.
Right.
So takeaways, thoughts? I mean, we technically have 20 more minutes. We don't have to take all 20 minutes, but we can. Obviously, we're not going to solve this here today, but any thoughts that you want to put on the record, you can. You can also talk to us offline. Go ahead.
Throwing a new one, we have a truck that's decided to break down at least once a week. It's our crew vehicle for Georgetown. And it's gonna need replaced sooner rather than later, so. Capital need anywhere from, based on what we just bought, $200,000 to $500,000. And hopefully we can find something that's available, that's, looks good. Soon, because it could take potentially up to 4 years to build a new truck. Probably 3 years for the type of truck we're looking.
How old is that truck that you're talking about?
2017, I made a comment, I'll say here. Other than the truck we bought last year, the used truck, which we were hugely fortunate to get, was an awesome deal. I haven't bought a major apparatus in any way, shape, or form since 2017. So when I argue for mills, I'm just bring it back to mills. When I argue for 5 mills versus 4.4, I'm arguing for I need to be able to make, at least have some kind of capital money that can make lease payments to replace apparatus. Because, well, EMS has got a really good funding structure through RETAC to re-chassis ambulances, which is awesome. There's that same opportunity doesn't exist for fire. So I think we do a good job of maintaining our fleet and making it run for as long as we can for service life. These are just 2 high use trucks. Our larger trucks are lower use and they'll probably outlast my career in reality, but the high use daily run trucks is where we have capital needs. So I need something in whatever the final funding structure is that allows a little bit of capital replacement, because otherwise that in itself is going to be a reduction in services.
Yeah. Where does, Kelly, where does this 700, or either one of you, we're estimating 755, 788,000 in new revenue. I guess 888 if you think about, well, let me not overcomplicate. Where does 788,000 in new revenue get us in terms of operating the way we are today with the capital investments we're making today? How long are we solving?
No capital, just as we are today, no capital additions. If we get to 9 mil equivalent, that's 2032. But we can't go till 2032 without a truck.
And that's spending zero money on capital. Okay.
So if we go to a 10, ESD, that gives us an additional under $200,000, which could be healthy for lease payment on a purchase of a new truck, and still be able to maintain as we are today. That doesn't include any wage increase. It stays flat. And it would be the same amount of time, 2032. No matter what, we have to find additional funding in our near future.
So I wasn't able to find whether or not Evergreen Fire Rescue is going for a new mill levy share. But I did find that they last had an increase in 2016. So we're definitely behind the 8 ball as far as supporting their fire department.
Yeah, it'd be May, so the survey would go out, because I understand the survey would go out for them December, January to make the decision.
Oh, they're for next
Because
year.
they're a special district, so they're a May ballots.
So what does that do to the municipalities if we raise that up more? That would be more contribution to make those equal.
It's a voluntary match, just like you guys didn't have to match the municipalities when they chose to raise theirs. Within the IGA.
Within the IGA, we can go up to 10 without the municipalities having to change their contribution. I think just as the municipalities immediately wanted to see the county get to 9 once they had I don't think that there's anything that's sustainable that's not us all contributing at the same level. And so that's kind of I think a reasonable question as we think about whether changing the split or increasing the ask to be able to get 10 to the fire authority. How is increasing from 9 to 10 within the municipalities, is that a short-term or medium-term possibility?
I think it is.
I think for everybody that Idaho Springs, it would have to involve a ballot question to make it a mill levy on the municipality. And I'm not trying to speak for Idaho Springs, but you have a healthier tax revenue base.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I just based on the last voluntary up, out of the general fund, I believe there's support for that.
Solar Plume just increased to 9 this last year.
Mhm.
And I think that if they asked their citizens to go up another mill, they'd probably get it.
I mean, we're getting better responses across the board from within the municipalities to this survey.
Getting all of the municipalities to have their own mill levy at 10 for fire protection would be huge. It would give the municipalities general fund money to do other things.
You know what? I'm sorry, I misspoke. Georgetown and Silver Plume beat unincorporated indefinitely, yes. Idaho Springs and Empire do not. And I put that up if you want to look at it, but we're not going to solve the whole math problem here. Any other, we got 15 minutes left. We don't have to stay the whole time. Any other thoughts? I mean, I'm hearing fire authority. I'm hearing what you're saying. And an open question on my mind is, does that involve changing the split or increasing the ask?
Dedicate your mills. You could dedicate a certain number of mills for your capital.
Because we've always just used the reserve for capital. We put in capital spending for different items in the budget, but we rarely spend it on. This year had 275 set aside for capital. We're not going to spend it all. There's nothing projected for any years out further.
Like the road and bridge fund, when they've done mill increases, it's been in alignment with property improvements. So an additional road, a number of miles or pieces of equipment, and that seems to have flown faster than operating expenses. So
People want specifics.
right.
You're talking about the capital costs have grown faster than the operating costs
Right.
in road and bridge. Yeah.
So we need capital, but we need this money just for operating, actually, really. We don't get an increase in operating funds. We go away.
You gotta have both, right? Fire trucks don't drive themselves and firefighters without trucks. That's a pretty tough response time.
What's the projection on EMS as far as if they, I mean, I know it's not, the mills is not enough. It's not everything that they need either, but how desperate are they if we shifted?
4.5, and I wish Aaron was here to talk about this, but 2.459 mils generates $437,000 in revenue.
It's not a lot.
I
unmuted him, so he should be able to talk if he wants.
Aaron, if you're not in the back of a bus and you have anything to add, that leaves them with 910,000 in outstanding need. Leaves CCFA with 1.1 million in outstanding need.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi.
Awesome. Hey, so just off the top of my head, this year our deficit is, and don't quote me on this because I don't have my spreadsheets just up in front of me, but $530,000, I believe, is our deficit. Our biggest need that we needed several years ago, and that obviously remains today, is 3 more paramedics so that we can have a third full-time ambulance. That cost about $315,000. So excluding chat, EMS alone is a little over $800,000. We have early in 2026, we'll have no more money in the bank, so the general fund will be supplementing EMS. So that's a true deficit.
There is no fund balance. And at the end of the year, we're projected to have 200,000 left. And one of the things that the way I view this situation is that both Fire Authority and Clear Creek EMS have known for years that they need more staff to maintain the level of service. The Fire Authority and its board that I'm on chose to just go get that staff and we're going to figure this out later. Clear Creek EMS has waited, right? And so that's my perspective, is that 315 for a new crew, whether the money's been spent or not, the best way to look at these agencies apples to apples is that this is both a need. Right now, one of the organizations is spending that need right now. The other one hasn't yet. But I got to tell you, I mean, by next year, I don't know. I think we're going to hear from our staff that third bus it's not an option to say no anymore.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Rich, and then Jeremy, I saw you.
I have a question, like if you get that third staff and vehicle on the road, does that also help bring in income to EMS with billing?
They're only getting 30% covered right now. Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah. So, well, yeah, right now, if you look at our reimbursement rate between Medicare, Medicaid, commercial insurance, private pay, it's 33 to 35%, depending on the time frame that you look at. That's actually pretty good. We expect that to drop tremendously with the new bill. Every year we put in a supplemental reimbursement request for Medicare, Medicaid. This year we anticipated that they would write us a check for about $300,000, but with the Medicaid cuts, we don't know what it'll be or if it'll be there at all. So that reimbursement rate's gonna reduce significantly. And because our reimbursement rate is so low, because commercial insurance companies are so difficult to work with, sorry, not to call out those big companies on this meeting, but we actually lose money when the more calls we run, the more money we lose. Because we never get reimbursed for a single call. We never get reimbursed what we actually cost.
Aaron, my way of thinking about that is that you're not going to respond to more calls with a third bus, right? You're going to be more available to respond rapidly, but you're not going to.
No,
do you anticipate?
No, we will respond to more calls, because last year in 2024 we requested Gilpin Ambulance Authority alone to stand by for us 106 times.
Oh yeah, thank you. Okay. Got 8 minutes here. Not trying to rush you all.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna wordsmith this a little bit more with Peter's help to make it more, make people more comfortable that it will just go to maintaining fire and EMS services, and that the money will go specifically to those services, right?
The three things was mentioning all revenues will go to these services at the end. Thinking about that 40 years and all that complication, and then reworking the bullets.
It's not a complication. It's really good argument.
Those are the things that we have to discuss.
Okay. And Peter said he could work in language that would be, that would obey all the legal niceties.
Yeah, Peter, you're gonna try to get like a more concise version of that final paragraph, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Any other comments from anybody?
I'm curious when you'd like to bring this before the board.
We need to approve final language on August 19th.
Yes.
Colleagues, do you want a work session before then? Work session on the 5th to talk about it?
Sure.
See value in that? Brian?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Um, 4,000 voters out there. In this electorate.
Next meeting day.
Yes, the next meeting date, thank you. Do we want this group to continue to meet? Do we want to meet once more in August? I think we should be planning on continuing to meet kind of over the long term, no matter what happens. Obviously, while there's a ballot out there, I don't know how much sense it makes to be meeting between August and December. I mean,
Okay, so we can lobby for this until September 1st. Is that what I heard somebody say?
the governments can only talk about this until it's on the ballot.
And when does the ballot go out? Or when is it on the ballot?
When the language goes over.
We're going to be making an up-down decision on August 19th.
So the clerk and recorder will likely publish the blue book or white book as appropriate, with the ballot language in advance, usually in early September or mid-September. But each individual commissioner may certainly support the ballot measure on their own time, just not as a public body. You don't want to be out there representing yourself as the Board of County Commissioners, but you may speak to an item or to the ballot measure.
And
Similar thing goes for staff and employees. You cannot do that on county time using county resources on any of your county electronics.
Okay.
But you certainly may do that as an individual citizen off time and off county electronics and resources.
Right. Every individual in this room still benefits from the First Amendment. I have one kind of open question, just that I would be asking if I was on the municipal boards. Since this ballot measure, I'm not putting it on, can we do things like endorse it as a body? That's a question I would be asking of my attorneys if I was on one of those boards. You all may be able to endorse this.
Thank you for clarifying that, because my advice was to the Board of County Commissioners. I appreciate that.
Kelly?
Who's gonna put together the blue book?
The Blue Book language is put together, Peter, correct me if I'm wrong, the Blue Book language is not put together by the government. The government can't do that, correct?
That is correct. The government definitely may not do that.
Individuals would be.
I built the one for the DeBruce question.
But who did you have presented? I mean, presumably
I
we
don't
can,
remember, but I put it together.
Yeah, so
I put together the pros.
okay.
So individuals, of course, may contribute who happen to be part of these governments or these entities may draft language and submit it on their own, or talk amongst themselves, but they may not submit it on behalf of the government.
Okay, got it. Thank you. So like Kelly's board can't direct him to go do that, but if he feels so inspired on his time off, I'm sure his efforts would be welcome.
Yes.
Okay, thank you all. I don't think we have anything else.
We have
another
Next meeting.
Oh yeah, next meeting. Do we want to meet in August?
Yes.
Also, while you guys are looking, our next town hall is at Floyd Hill. It's at the CCFA station. So if you're watching online, it'll be on Wednesday at 6 o'clock at the Fire Authority Station on Floyd Hill. So please come. If any of this confused you, please come and we will answer your questions and get you all the information you need.
August 18th. Anybody think August 18th makes a lot of sense? Is there a chance that we can do it at 11? I
can.
Yeah, I can too.
will prioritize this if I have to, but I've got a 1 to 1:30 that's will be hard for me to avoid.
So we can get it 11?
Does that work?
Goes for me.
As long as I can get to Boulder by 3.
So if we get you 11 to 1, we might even shorten it to an hour. Should we shorten it to an hour? I think so.
Here.
So let's do 11 to noon here on August 18th. One more time, August 18th, 11 o'clock, right here.
Oh.
1 hour. Thank you all for your time. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.